Well, I'm surprised to be here. I wasn't sure we'd ever get another Batman Arkham game, and here we are. Batman Arkham is arguably my favourite series in video games, so to have a new entry was so exciting, and one that lived up to, in fact, exceeded expectations in that Arkham Shadow was fantastic. But, where does it fit in the big picture of the Arkham games? Where does it rank? And since I've never done an actual ranking of the Arkham games, now is the time for it. The thing about the Arkham games is that you could ask me on any day of the week how I feel about them, what order I would rank them in, and that would change. But this time, I just sit down and got a real feel for how I would rank these video games. So today, that's exactly what we're doing. These are all the Arkham games that I played. So that doesn't include the Arkham City Wii game, but it does include Arkham VR and Blackgate, as it should. But before we dive into it, as a quick reminder, if you enjoy this video, please consider dropping a like, and if you love the Arkhamverse as much as I do, consider subscribing. We talk about it and cover it a lot around here. News, reviews, anything to do with it, so consider subscribing. Right, let's rank these games. We have 7 games to rank, the list being Arkham Asylum, City, Origins, Night, VR, Origins Blackgate, and Shadow. We're going to go from my least favourite to my number 1. At 7, we're talking Arkham VR. Truth is, I don't have much to say about this one, especially now that it has a VR counterpart in Shadow. It feels like an extended tech demo. For its time, it was cool I guess, but it doesn't really go much beyond that. It's extremely short and doesn't really function as an Arkham game. The little parts it does with Jason is probably the highlight and how it ties into Arkham Knight, but honestly, I don't have much more to say on Arkham VR than this. But moving on from this, at number 6, this is where I start to get really passionate about how I feel about these Arkham games. Because at number 6, this is where the least favourite part begins. I'm going Arkham Origins Blackgate. Look, for what this was, there's actually quite a lot I really like here. It is so unique from every other game because it's a 2.5D Metroidvania. The scenarios here, they're quite fun, and I also love the presentation and how they did the cutscenes. The cutscenes have a tremendous amount of style. When I first got my Steam Deck, I had never played Arkham Origins Blackgate, and I booted it up thinking, cool, just another Arkham game to just play around, get the most out of my Steam Deck. And I came away from it really impressed. Like, this was kind of slept on to the point where, even as a big Arkham fan, I never really hear people talk about this game. Is it on the level of what everything else in the series is on? No. But for what this package is, I think it's got a lot to offer, especially how it actually ties in to Arkham Origins itself. It's a really nice companion piece to Arkham Origins, and there's something in it that makes it charming. The reason it's at number 6 is I do remember a few moments of frustration in my playthrough in terms of how the backtracking was or how finicky some of the mechanics could be, but if you have never played this one and you just want more Batman Arkham, maybe you should. Alright, now I guess we get into the 5 mainline games. So this is where I start to earn my dislikes and piss people off. As I always say, this is just my opinion, my experience. None of this is actually that serious or it doesn't even matter. But at number 5, we're going to go with Batman Arkham Asylum. Look, the fact of the matter is, this list doesn't exist without Arkham Asylum. It's that simple. This was the game that kickstarted it all, that redefined what a superhero video game could be. What I love most about Asylum was the atmosphere of it because it is so iconic. That eeriness, the moodiness, the mystery. Childhood me was both fascinated and left uneasy by the mystery of Amadeus Arkham. One thing that I love about Arkham is that it's got so many memorable Batman moments, and there are plenty in Arkham Asylum. From having the Batcave under the asylum that was just so fucking cool, discovering Bane in the chamber was horrifying, and my god, the Scarecrow encounters will forever be up there with the greatest moments of Arkham. The psychological impact on the player of how Scarecrow played with your mind in what was real and what wasn't, thinking your TV was broke was next level fuckery from Rocksteady. Of course, this was also the beginning of just one of the all-time dynamics, continuing from Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. The chemistry between Batman and Joker in the Arkham games is just nothing short of iconic, a more mature continuation of Batman the Animated Series, except now, you're the Batman. Something else that never really continued after Batman Arkham Asylum, but I absolutely adore, the comic book style and theming of the menus and displays here, like when you go into the villain bios and the hero bios, and like it just feels so beautiful. It's like got this amazing comic book presentation. And like I say, we never really got that again. The menus, the descriptions, the character tapes, the presentation of them was just really so cool. I think the reason Asylum ranks 5th is because obviously it is the weakest playing of the series, but it also lacks the same substance as the other ones did outside of the main campaign. That said, I actually feel the Riddler offerings here were potentially the best with how creepy it made the Asylum, how it helped flesh out this Arkham world. I really do love Asylum. I have to restate it. This is my 5th favourite. Not the 5th worst, my 5th favourite. Because Arkham Asylum is iconic, and this is the game that started it all, and it's just ingrained. Like, I can picture that map, that piercing moon that, like, there's the backdrop and the city. What a video game. To be honest with you, entries 3 to 5 were perhaps the most difficult for me to order. But at entry number 4, we're going to be going with Batman Arkham Origins. When Origins first released, I was kind of pissed off. I can't lie. We'd had so much Joker, so that when the reveal occurs that the main villain behind it all was once again the Joker, I was like, come on, man. Batman has one of the best rogues galleries out there. Stop forcing the Joker. Over time, though, I've really come around to Origins. It absolutely sucks that so many people cannot play this game because it's still stuck on the PS3, but man, with some PC mods, this game looks fantastic still. I actually think that a piece of unfair criticism that WB Montreal get for Arkham Origins is that, oh, they were just given the tools that Rocksteady gave them and they made a fine Batman game just to tie us over. I think that's unfair, because I think what WB Montreal did was give us a much more character-driven story, not to mention the real focus on the detective side of the Batman, which I personally really love. Like, everyone loves the big, scary, mythical, brute Batman. But me? I love a good detective Batman. Part of why I'm in awe with Matt Reeves' Batman. Origins bringing in the crime reconstruction mechanic was so sick, and I loved how they leaned into that to begin with as you start to puzzle what is happening together. Like, it's very simple on the surface level, but it's effective in making you feel like you're working it out. Origins is of course so iconic because we finally get Batman and Deathstroke going at it here. Of course, by boss fights of today's standard, it's pretty bog standard. But Origins at its time, this felt like a real showdown, so cinematic and a real clash of two trained fighters going at it. That Origins trailer of Batman fighting Deathstroke is still so sick to this day. They of course added the shot gloves here, which was a unique mechanic in charging up combat to perhaps feel a little bit more tanky than how you feel in the other games, and it helped bring in new enemy types and how you deal with them and change the way you play a little bit. Then there is of course the Christmas setting, which helps this game stand out a lot more, and it also gives you just a great excuse to replay every single Christmas. Something that all the Arkham games really have is just how memorable each setting really is. What Origins does really well too is capturing that young and inexperienced Batman. And that comes down to Roger Craig Smith too. I'm really going to miss Kevin Conroy, he's my Batman, but Roger Craig Smith is a really good Batman. In Origins, he captures that bottled up rage and anger at the world, and the injustice that has come from it. The confrontations between Alfred and Bruce in this are a particular highlight. I think unlike City and Asylum before it, Origins really tries to tell a more character-driven story, and I think that's to its benefit here. I also think the idea of 8 assassins is a very good comic book story. How it deals with Batman's first encounter with a lot of these characters is well done, and I love the fact that it has some deeper cuts with Bird or Shiva, even the setup of Anarchy. I also think that Arkham Origins has the best DLC in the entire Arkham series. A Cold Heart has been slept on by so many. We have a lot of good Mr. Freeze stories in the animated series, but I think outside of that, this is one of the best origin and Freeze stories that have been told outside the comics. I really do. It's a great introduction to Mr. Freeze. It does a terrific job of highlighting the sad truth of how many of Batman's villains end up the way they are. The origin of Victor Freeze becoming Mr. Freeze is so well told, not to mention you get the fucking sick XE suit, which still looks insane, man. This is maybe a bit of a personal taste, but I love it when in a superhero story, somewhere close to home or close to the character is attacked. So if that's a Spider-Man story, it might be Peter's college, or here in A Cold Cold Heart, Wayne Manor is obviously taken over by Freeze and his gang. And then that leads to you doing combat and stealth encounters as Bruce in Wayne Manor. Not to mention, of course, Arkham Origins also has challenge maps that allow us to play as Deathstroke, which, again, come on, man. I know we had Joker in Asylum, but Deathstroke, he's a fucking sick villain. One final note on Arkham Origins is how funny is it that the post-credit sequence of Arkham Origins is them setting up Suicide Squad with Deathstroke, only for Rocksteady to go make and release a Suicide Squad game 11 years later. Like, isn't that just kind of crazy? Like, I think about it quite a lot. I know it's stupid, but it's crazy in my mind. Anyway, we're into the final three. And look, I am shocked to be saying this. Like, I really, really am. I would not have anticipated this. But at number 3, we're going with Batman Arkham Shadow. I had to ask myself, is there some form of recency bias here? But I really do believe it's earned its spot as number 3 on this list. There are many elements of Batman Arkham Shadow that I think are just incredible. But perhaps its greatest strength is how it takes the Arkham series and does something wholly unique with it. It's impossible to talk about that without some minor gameplay and story spoilers, so before I talk, there's timestamps when I'm finished talking about those specific spoilers in case you do intend to play it and you haven't just got round to it yet, and I want to preserve that experience for you. So just quickly go to the timestamp if you do intend to play it and you don't want to get spoiled. Okay, you're still here. So the aspect of Arkham Shadows that I love a lot and that feels so unique is the time you spend playing as Bruce Wayne, or more specifically, Matches Malone. Matches Malone? Are you joking me? Like, not a deep cut, but like, as a comic book reader, that's so fucking cool, man. Going undercover in Blackgate Prison is such a fun and interesting idea, and something that we've never had in the Arkham games. And the way that leads to interacting with other cellmates, meeting Dr. Quinzel and Jonathan Crane, it adds a new lens to this Arkham universe that has so much already, but it's interesting from a gameplay perspective in what it's like to be Batman without his utility. Like I said, it's so sick because we see this stuff in Batman comics a lot, but to experience it here really makes Arkham Shadow stand out. Alright, so spoilery stuff over, Arkham Shadow has a lot of amazing other things to offer us. For example, camouflage being able to translate free flow combat into VR first person that still makes you feel swift and ferocious and brutal without making me throw up is a genuine, it's wizardry. Adding equipment the more you play, and in VR you really do feel that brutal nature that I spoke about in taking these enemies out as the bat. Breaking arms after performing a knife evade, ground takedowns, inverted takedowns. I mentioned this in my review, but what's so fantastic about this game is that the stuff that we've grown so accustomed to over the years, so experienced with over the years, in Arkham Shadow, it's given a fresh and new perspective here. It's like doing it for the first time all over again. What perhaps was the most surprising part of Arkham Shadow is how character driven this story is. I would actually go as far as to say this is the most character driven story in the entire Arkhamverse. It really functions as a sequel to Origins in both its spirit but also what you do in the game, and it's a great sequel in that. Admittedly, it doesn't have side missions like the other entries, but I think because the main package is so strong here, it doesn't need to. Its attention to detail of the Arkham universe is remarkable, from the on-the-nose stuff to the Easter eggs that even Arkham veterans may struggle to pick out like myself. It feels like a love letter to Arkham, but managing to still stand on its own 2 feet, arguably shoulder to shoulder with the rest of them in the series, and that's what makes this game incredible. And it had a lot going against it, like it's been 9 years since Batman Arkham Knight, so to have a new mainline Arkham game, especially after the disappointment of Suicide Squad for so many people, and it being in VR as a VR exclusive, there is a lot working against it that could have just been forgettable or whatever. But the job that Camouflage did, I really hope that we see more in this series from Batman, if that's what they want to do, because I think there's so many stories that they could tell from this perspective, and I think it can actually only get better. Also, I loved Roger Craig Smith in this one. His performance for me cemented the fact that I want him to be video game Batman going forward. Especially the younger, more resentful and inexperienced Batman, because the dynamic between him and Martin Jarvis as Alfred continues to excel here. And I spoke at the very top in Arkham Asylum about moments, and this game has moments that stand out as some of the best in the series as well. So yeah, before Arkham Shadow dropped, I 100% would have thought, okay, this is going to be ranked low on my list, but I'm really pleased to have it in my top 3. The final 2 then. At this point, I've already pissed off so many people, but we just keep going, alright? At number 2, we're going with Batman Arkham Knight. Now look, this game very much annoys me in some places. Deathstroke's boss battle being a tank battle, the sheer number of tank fights that you have in this video game, the really underwhelming follow-ups to Hush's and Azrael's side stories. However, I think this is still, to this day, the greatest feeling superhero game on the market. I mean, 9 years later, this game looks fucking phenomenal. And yes, I play with PC mods, but come on WB, get this game on next-gen consoles. Like, you're literally losing out on money, and this game deserves to look at its best. Like, when you are playing above 30 frames per second, this combat sings. The flexibility of the combat scenarios for how you want to play as the player is just sublime. Powered up gadgets, cape stuns, counters, reversals, enemy variety, and whilst Marvel's Spider-Man does have the best feeling traversal, no superhero game comes close to the combat of Batman Arkham Knight. But also the sheer amount of variety in its offerings, and most particularly in its side content. There is so much to do. They gave us so much here, including a bad PC port. But seriously, I mean, Batmobile chases, no-hit combat encounters, stealth scenarios at banks, scanning dead corpses to figure out mysteries, dual combat scenarios. Arkham Knight is a complete package. I also think that despite Jason's reveal being so obvious that everyone even guessed it before launch and them kind of like trying to get away from that, it's very well done in the game itself. And I know that when I was talking about Batman Arkham Origins, I was talking about how I'm just sick of the Joker being everywhere, but he fit in here. Like, it was perfect. There is so much that I love about the Joker being in Arkham Knight. The dynamic just works even more so here with him being in your head. Having him narrating some really big scenes like thinking Barbara is dead or dealing with Robin is just so good. And not to mention, I mean, Johnny Charisma. What a banger that was. Take me on home to the asylum. I'll save you for the rest of it. But what a banger, mate. Arkham Knight has some sensational moments, man. Even in the odds calling the Batmobile for the first time. I mean, that opening monologue with the score swelling, that first dual team encounter, but of course, that scene.
You're afraid of being forgotten. And you will be forgotten, Joker. Because of me. I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
Kevin Conroy, man, the best to ever do it. I know a lot of people have many gripes with Arkham Knight, but it is a truly remarkable game to play. I remember waking up on launch day at 5 AM because I was off on a trip somewhere else to try and squeeze a couple hours in before I headed out, and just because I remember my height levels reaching critical levels, and it was the fitting end to the trilogy. Like I say too, an incredible package. Like, we got the Batgirl DLC, which finally did Barbara some justice, and a very fun little story to play. We also got to play as Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Robin, Nightwing, and of course Red Hood in very small little stories, but ones that were very fun and allowed us to play as those characters. And then there's just the sheer amount of content in Riddler trophies and riddles, but also challenge maps. They served as a true love letter, not to Arkham, but to Batman in general. We got Batman 66 races, 89, Tumblr Batmobile, and some fantastic suits too. I love Arkham Knight a lot. It is not a perfect video game, but it is a bloody good Batman game. Alright, number 1 then. There could only ever be one, and if you've been watching this channel for a while, you knew what it was. My favourite video game ever made, Batman Arkham City. This was the game that changed video games for me. The one that changed how I thought about them, digested them, and wanted to learn more about them. Arkham City to me is a lightning in a bottle moment for the time that it was made. In video games now, sequels are often better, but not by the same margin as they were when they first released. The jump in quality from Arkham Asylum to City was gigantic. I've done a whole video on why Arkham City is my favourite video game ever made, which I will link in the description, but I'm going to try and sum it up here anyway. To me, Arkham City is Batman perfected. The story, the threat, the psychology, the setting, the open world, and the side missions. The thing that I really love is that Arkham City is pitched as your prison, but Rocksteady make it your playground. The evolution of the combat from Asylum to City was incredible. It just felt immaculate. The agility, the brutality, and the swiftness of it all. There is of course the iconic boss fight against Mr. Freeze, which doesn't have any bombastic set piece, no swelling score, just a really smart encounter that made you adapt as your enemy did. It was the ultimate encapsulation to me of what it is to be Batman against one of his rogues gallery. Another aspect that I just really love is the way that Rocksteady just take the absolute piss out of the player throughout the entire game in just the way they foreshadow and leave clues in front of your face the entire game. Like the first shot of the game being the final shot of the game, Joker's conversation with you up in the clock tower teasing what's going to happen, the secret scarecrow lair to set up Arkham Knight. There's so much. In what made Asylum so interesting and atmospheric, Arkham City gave us this different feeling of this grander mystery. There's just so much packed in here. I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but even Calendar Man, visiting him on the different days of the year, just really unique interactions. Look, I've spoke about moments a good couple of times with Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight, but perhaps my favourite moment in all of the Arkham games is this scene right here.
Oracle. Strange is launching missile strikes on Arkham City from Wonder Tower. You shut this place down. Joker's taken Talia. I'm going after them.
You can't. Hundreds will be killed. I need your help to stop the attack.
He'll kill Talia.
You need to think this through. Batman can't let all these people die.
My tracker's not activating. Reroute all Wayne Tech satellites to boost the signal.
I can't do that. I realize it is difficult, Sam. But you need to decide if one life is worth sacrificing to save 1,000.
Don't do this, Alfred.
Batman must save Gotham. I'm sorry, but deep down, you know I'm right.
Oracle, do not lose Talia's signal.
Look, some people love Batman because he's this big brute, and some people love Batman because he's this detective. I love this moment because it really humanizes Batman in not just Bruce, but the character as a whole. The dynamic here between Alfred, Oracle, and Batman, in that Bruce just wants to go and save Talia. And that line from Alfred of Batman must save Gotham, it's just perfect. And like, it's that whole idea of Batman not always wanting to do the right thing, but he does. And that's just it's just a really good moment. The score swelling and all the explosions going on, like, it is just iconic, man. It really is. And of course, Arkham City has one of the most genuinely shocking endings in what they do. Let's just roll it.
Are you happy now?
Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
That actually is pretty funny.
I mean, what a scene that is. Other than the vengeance scene in Arkham Knight, if there was ever a scene to capture the dynamic between these two, it's this scene right there. The side stuff in Arkham City 2 is probably the best in the entire series in the quality, but most importantly, the variety. Hush and Azrael are definitely the best, man. I mean, as a kid, I hadn't read Hush yet, didn't know who he was, so for him to unwrap his face and see Bruce Wayne, my mind was fucking blown, man. Azrael too, with the most chilling message about what's to come. I'll never forget it. Batman Arkham City isn't just my favourite Arkham game ever made, it's my favourite video game ever made. And with that comes the end of my ranking of the Arkham games. So, brace yourself for the comments. What do you think? How do you rank the Batman Arkham games? What's your list? I would love to hear from you. Let's just keep it civil, yeah? I want to know how you rank the Arkham games in the order of what you played them. It doesn't have to be 7 to 1, just whatever you've played. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you and just talk about Batman Arkham, because that's what we do here. If you enjoyed listening to me talk about Batman Arkham, maybe drop a like. I would really appreciate it. It helps me in the old YouTube algorithm. Like I said at the top, if Arkhamverse content or comic book games content is what you are after, consider subscribing. We talk about it here. News, reviews, playthroughs, whatever it may be. Consider subscribing because I will have you covered. Otherwise, all my socials are linked in the description down below. So if you want more bad comic book opinions, you will find them down there 100%. Otherwise, I hope you have a terrific day. Play games, get gains, and I'll catch you next one.